the restaurant. He explains he believes they are dealing with check fraud. At around 1 p.m., the phone rings again. On the phone is an undercover cop. He informs Kathy that they are investigating the restaurant's liquor license. Several businesses in the area have been recently shut down for selling alcohol to minors. Kathy tells her mom to make sure she denied every guest because of the call she just received. Her mother asks her who called. Kathy refuses to say. When pressured further by her mother, Kathy responds, "No, he'll lose his job." Kathy's shift is over. She leaves the restaurant to go home. Her mother asks Kathy where she is going repeatedly, but Kathy won't say.
Kathy leaves in a hurry, but
that day.
Where again won't say.
Kathy's relative.
When Kathy tells home, parents report disappearance to the police.
or to her missing even after
He drove up to Oakland. And she sounded very afraid. She said Darvin found out something, and I don't know if it was about her and Paul or something. And she said, "I have to meet with you right away." Paul went back into the bowling and he had to leave. And his teammates weren't real happy with that. But the bowling alley owner confirmed that he all of a sudden just said, "Hey, I got to go." He agreed to meet her at, I think, a school parking lot. So when he got there, nobody was there. So he thought, well, that's he was going to kill her because he had a horrific temper, apparently.
Paul waits for 20 minutes, but Kathy never arrives. He has no idea she's reported missing earlier that night. A young woman has been taken. Gorman will have to live with these feelings for now because they need to focus on finding Kathy Ford. The day after Kathy's disappearance, the Ford's restaurant has now become ground zero for the search. Though distraught, Kathy's parents, Richard and Rosalie, are putting on brave faces. What matters most is finding Kathy. Along the tree line of Highway 50, local residents search for Kathy. Leading the search party, along with Officer Smith, is Paul Farrell. As a local resident and a deputy sheriff, he is trusted with the task. The Ford family feels they are in good hands with him, as he is well known and respected in the community.
Investigators who live and are from a small town often are more intimately aware of the environment. They know the people very well. They know the places that kids go and hide. They know all the nooks and crannies associated with that community. It's a luxury almost to have people in your law enforcement agency who are from that community.
2 days later, on February 20th, Paul's girlfriend, Kathy Bernard, asks if he's heard about Kathy Ford's disappearance. Paul is aware that Kathy is missing. He's concerned people suspect he has something to do with it. Kathy's car is last seen headed towards Mount Storm, where his trailer is located.
The guy named James Coon, who testified he was driving up the road, and Kathy Ford was in front of him in her Ford Bronco. This was on the day that she disappeared. And he saw her turn on to, I think it's Bismarck Road, which is the road that Paul's trailer was on. And so that was the last anybody supposedly saw her.
While cleaning up around his trailer, Kathy Bernard finds a note in one of Paul's pairs of pants. The note depicts two people setting up restaurants to sell alcohol to minors by using fake IDs. When Kathy questions him, Paul is concerned that someone around town is getting businesses to sell to minors. On February 26th, Paul and Officer Smith meet with Vonda Moreland, a concerned citizen who wishes to assemble an official search committee. Both officers think it's a great idea. It's been 9 days since Kathy disappeared, and a dedicated search party would be very helpful. A young woman approaches Officer Smith. She describes a disturbing event that happens to her on the day of Kathy Ford's disappearance. Paul heads back to his trailer for lunch, where he discovers startling new information about the case. Then, he sees something off in the distance.
Hi, my name is Damian Clark. If you have both Medicare and Medicaid, I have some really encouraging news that you'll definitely want to hear. Depending on the plans available in your area, you may be eligible to get extra benefits with the Humana Medicare Advantage Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan. Most plans include the Humana Healthy Options Allowance, a monthly allowance to help pay for eligible groceries, utilities, rent, and over-the-counter items, like vitamins, pain relievers, first aid supplies, and more. The Healthy Options Allowance is loaded onto a prepaid card each month, and whatever you don't spend carries over from each month. You can pay nothing for covered prescriptions all year long, even name brand drugs. All plans have $0 copays for covered preventive dental services, which include 2 free cleanings a year, as well as fillings. They may also have vision coverage, including vision exams, and a yearly allowance towards eyewear, such as lenses or contacts. Even hearing coverage, which includes routine hearing exams and coverage towards hearing aids. You'll even have a $0 copay for routine vaccines and telehealth visits. Plus, your doctor, hospital, and pharmacy may already be part of our large Humana networks. So call the number on your screen now to speak with a licensed Humana sales agent. If you're eligible, they can even help enroll you over the phone in a Humana Medicare Advantage Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan. When you choose Humana, you'll find the benefits and support that our members have asked for, like a monthly allowance to help pay for eligible groceries, utilities, rent, and over-the-counter items. Prescriptions where you could pay nothing. You could get $0 copays for covered preventive dental services, vision, even hearing coverage. And our large networks of doctors, hospitals, and pharmacies. So call the number on your screen now to speak with a licensed Humana sales agent to see if you qualify to enroll in a plan with extra benefits. Wouldn't you love benefits like a monthly allowance? To help pay for eligible groceries, utilities, rent, and over-the-counter items. Covered prescriptions where you can pay nothing all year long, even for the name brand ones. Just think of what benefits like these can do for your health and your life. So if you have Medicare and Medicaid, call the number on your screen now and speak with a licensed Humana sales agent. If you're eligible, they can even help enroll you over the phone in a Humana Medicare Advantage dual eligible special needs plan. And remember, annual enrollment ends on December 7th. So call now. Humana, a more human way to healthcare.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real. And what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes. And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles.
Try it this Thanksgiving for only $14.95 plus free shipping. Visit plexidermtrial.com or call the number on your screen.
Gorman, Maryland borders the sister town of Gormania across the Potomac River in West Virginia. Both towns are the quintessential American small towns, with 106 people living in Gorman and 133 in Gormania. These small towns are rocked by the tragic disappearance of 19-year-old Kathy Ford, a young woman with her whole life ahead of her. Members of the town have rallied together to search for Kathy Ford. Paul Farrell is leading the search for Kathy while also investigating the nature of her disappearance. The investigation is at a standstill, but when the police receive new information and Paul Farrell sees something that shocks him, the case is starting to heat up. Paul calls Vonda Moreland, asking if they can put a hold on the search for 48 hours, but she's unable to call off the search. Paul also requests that Bismarck and Cherry Roads be exempt from the search because evidence has been found near the intersection and he doesn't want it contaminated. And then a potential break in the case. A young woman around the same age as Kathy Ford tells the police about a phone call she receives the morning of Kathy Ford's disappearance. The man claims to be a magistrate and says he is conducting an investigation into someone she knows, telling her she needs to meet him at the Mount Storm Fire Hall to discuss it. When confronted about who he's investigating, the man becomes defensive and quickly ends the call. It turns out several women receive calls like this, all from a man claiming to be a magistrate.
They're two very distinctive sets of phone calls that are made. However, the recipients in all of them are women between the ages of 19 and 39. The first set of calls takes place between September 28, 1987 and the end of November of 1987. The recipients are all asked to meet at a location near Bayard Wilson Corona Road. The second set of calls takes place between February 1st, 1988 and the day that Kathy Ford disappeared. The circumstances are identical except the women are all asked to meet near Bismarck Road.
The number of women had been receiving phone calls. Nobody was ever hurt. They were just pranks.
The residents of Gorman are afraid of the new threat in their peaceful community.
The residents are nervous, and essentially they're hiding inside from a threat that really only revealed itself when Kathy Ford didn't return home.
Some optimistic evidence is delivered in the form of a letter on March 2nd, 1988. 14 days after Kathy's disappearance, the letter is addressed to Kathy's parents, Rosalie and Richard Ford Jr. The letter reads, "The only crime here is we had to get rid of the old man's Bronco right away. Kathy is 19, an adult, and we had to leave fast. We came into some dangerous money, so here's some money on the Bronco. More to follow. She'll call you when she feels it's safe to do so. We're heading where I can get work. Kathy made me write to you so you wouldn't worry. She had to get away from Darwin Moon, the restaurant, and certain people. We keep the money, her green bag. Tell Moon to leave us alone. Included in the envelope is $200 in $20 bills. Evidence continues to pile up on March 8th when the police find out that smoke hangs over Stony River on the day of Kathy Ford's disappearance. A burnt car is found in a remote wooded area just outside of Stony River.
If there is no body, there is no medical examiner investigators. We work with the police and specialists for cause and manner of death. And so in this case, I can't imagine the individuals in search for evidence and suspected arson occurred and has destroyed all of the evidence that may have been contained within the vehicle that the victim owned. The power of heat will congeal everything together, and sometimes you can't even determine if it was a part of a car or was that evidence. As the forensic investigation team obtained that burnt out vehicle as evidence, they would have found the remains of a human and bones or teeth, for that matter, anything, if the victim was present within her vehicle. But she definitely was not in the vehicle at the time.
The car is found 100 yards from Paul Farrell's trailer, beside Bismarck and Cherry Road. Police immediately notice bloodstains in the trailer. Paul's questioned about the evidence against him. Paul denies hurting Kathy Ford in any way, but does confess that the two of them had a secret affair for several years. Paul is arrested on March 20th, 1988. He is kept in a cell until March 25th, when he is freed on a bail of $100 until he faces trial.
There has never been a better time to join AARP. This special offer gives you exclusive access to hundreds of AARP discounts, programs, and services that will add real value to your life. As a member, you can get discounts on glasses and eye exams, save on prescription drugs not covered by Medicare, but you can also save on travel, hotels, restaurants, concert tickets, and so much more.
I didn't know that.
AARP helps members access exclusive benefits like Medicare supplement insurance, even auto insurance.
We can use that.
AARP offers financial tips, career resources, and tools that may help you avoid identity theft and scammers.
That's good to know.
Pick up the phone now to join AARP. 1 year for just $12. That's 25% off the regular membership price. You'll even get a second membership included free. And you'll receive AARP the magazine filled with information and articles important to you. Plus, you'll get hundreds of benefits and an additional free gift if you call now.
And you don't have to be retired to join AARP. You can join at 50 for instant access to many member benefits. For 60 years, AARP has fought to protect your Social Security, Medicare, and more.
That sounds good to me.
Now you know how AARP helps people like us take on today. So don't miss your chance to join now.
Call or go online now to take advantage of this special offer. 1 year for just $12. That's a savings of 25% off the regular membership price. And you'll get a second AARP membership for anyone in your home free. And get a full year subscription to AARP the magazine filled with information and articles important to you. Plus, you get the AARP mobile app that connects you to local events and activities near you. And as a free gift, we'll include this insulated trunk organizer. So don't miss this chance to save 25% and get 1 year for just $12.
Call 800-400-9312.
Rated in the best hearing aids of 2024.
The Audi and Atom 2 series offers superior sound quality and functionality for a fraction of the price. For just $189 a pair, the Atom 2 features 4 different hearing modes for all types of hearing loss. It packs crystal clear sound, a nearly invisible design, and is even rechargeable.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids. They're so comfortable, I forget I'm wearing them. And the sound is amazing.
The Atom Pro 2 is our smallest hearing aid yet, featuring advanced background noise cancellation, and is the world's first hearing aid with built-in UV cleaning that kills 99% of bacteria.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed without seeing a doctor or having a hearing test.
Join over 500,000 happy customers today and get the hearing you deserve.
Call on 800-643-5744. That's 800-643-5744. Call 800-643-5744.
Coming up next on True Crime Network. On February 17th, 1988, in the small community of Gorman, Maryland, Kathy Ford leaves town to meet someone and never returns. The police have identified their prime suspect, Paul Farrell. Paul is a deputy sheriff in Grant County, where Gorman resides. He's also a local at the restaurant owned and operated by Kathy's family, and where she currently works. When questioned, he reveals that he and Kathy have been having a secret affair for a number of years. The motive is unclear, but the evidence against Paul Farrell is hard to ignore. Paul is linked to various phone calls made to young, attractive females, seemingly with the attempt to lure them to 2 specific locations. Paul rents trailers in both locations when the calls are made. The car Kathy Ford is last seen driving is found burnt 100 yards from Paul's trailer, an area he asks to not be searched. The police search Paul's trailer. They find bloodstains in the bedroom, installation of new carpeting, and fresh paint. Paul Farrell is arrested, and on January 25th, 1989, his trial begins. Paul Farrell is being charged with kidnapping, second-degree murder, and third-degree arson. Paul pleads not guilty to all charges.
In this case, there's no body and there's no murder weapon. So not only is it going to be a challenge for the prosecution to show that Paul Farrell is the one who committed this crime, but that the crimes that they're alleging even occurred in the first place. So what they're going to have to do is try to gather all of the evidence that they can in absence of this direct evidence. So relying heavily on circumstantial evidence to prove to the jury beyond a reasonable doubt that Paul Farrell is guilty. What they're going to have to do, in addition to gathering that evidence, is also try to prove a motive and show evidence that Paul Farrell disposed of Kathy Ford's body in the way that they're alleging he did.
The prosecutor addresses the jury and delivers his opening arguments. He states that Paul uses fraud to entice Miss Ford to meet with him in order to gain a sexual concession, and that when Paul is unable to get what he wants, he kills Kathy Ford, disposes of her body, and burns the car to eliminate evidence. The prosecution present various phone calls to lure young women. In many of the phone calls, the man claims to be a magistrate. Both magistrates in the county are female. One of the magistrates and her assistant testify that Paul Farrell uses a payphone outside of their building between 10 and 11 in the morning of February 17th, 1988. The prosecution present evidence of 206 additional phone calls to libraries and bookstores across the country. During these calls, Paul Farrell poses as a doctor and asks young female employees to read sexually explicit pages from the book Our Bodies, Ourselves. One employee hears heavy breathing on the other end of the phone while she reads. The prosecution states Paul is making these phone calls as a way of self-gratification. The defense admits to Paul making these calls. For him, it's like calling a sex hotline without having to pay. Paul says this evidence should be excluded because it's more prejudicial than probative.
So circumstantial evidence is evidence that speaks to the surrounding circumstances of a crime, but doesn't necessarily tie a suspect directly to it. Suspicious phone calls, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, are things that create an error that lead one to believe that this person committed the offense, but doesn't necessarily directly tie them to it, and could potentially have another very plausible explanation. Direct evidence, on the other hand, is direct links between the accused and the crime. So things like DNA, a confession, fingerprints, that hard evidence that tends to be much easier for a jury to believe than a case that's purely based on circumstantial evidence. Prejudicial evidence is used to create a negative image of the accused, whereas probative evidence is evidence that speaks directly to the facts of the case. So in this situation, what Paul Farrell is trying to argue is that the phone calls that were made are prejudicial as opposed to probative. So what a judge needs to determine in determining whether that evidence should be admissible is whether the probative effects of that evidence, so the direct links to the case that they're considering, outweigh the potential prejudicial effects of that evidence. In this case, what the prosecution is using those phone calls to libraries and bookstores to establish is a motive to commit the specific offense that he's on trial for. So where normally they would be considered more probative than prejudicial, in this case, the prosecution is using them to draw a direct link to the case involved.
The number of women had been receiving phone calls. Nobody was ever hurt. They were just pranks. It all ended up that Paul Farrell was accused of making these calls. They had no proof of this. They had all these women testify. One, after a lot of pressure, said that the caller sounded like Paul Farrell. But she later recanted, said she told him, no, I don't think so. And he said, you got to stick to your story that you gave us. You've got to say that it was Paul Farrell. They started a very concerted effort of assassinating Paul Farrell's character. A lot of these women who were involved, they're kind of sheltered up in the mountains. The deputies and even the FBI and the prosecutors started telling them horror stories about Paul Farrell, that he had been implicated in 9 rapes and murders when he worked out at Yellowstone Park. They were telling them all kinds of stories to make Paul look like a very dangerous psychopath based on no evidence whatsoever.
Kathy Bernard testifies that on February 29th, 1988, she receives a phone call from Paul, who is in Pennsylvania.
Paul started getting implicated, and eventually he became afraid, so he did some stupid things. And one thing he did was drive up into Pennsylvania and mail a letter to Kathy's mom, handwritten letter that just said, Dear Mom, I'm okay. I just had to get away. Here's some money to help with everything. So he mailed it. And by that point, Paul was a very strong suspect. So when the mother got that letter, they tried to figure out who that call came from. And they got the phone records from the pay booth. At that time, in that small town, a call was made to Paul's girlfriend. So that did not look good at all. And I've seen this in a number of cases that people become very afraid when they realize they're a suspect and sometimes do stupid things that actually digs them into a bigger hole. And that's what Paul did.
Paul admits to making the call to Kathy Bernard, and the prosecution is ready to pounce. But could he have another reason for this suspicious behavior?
Hi, I'm Damian Clark. I'm here to help you understand how to get the most from Medicare. If you're eligible for Medicare, it's a good idea to have Original Medicare. It gives you coverage for doctor office visits and hospital stays. But if you want even more benefits, you can choose a Medicare Advantage plan, like the ones offered at Humana. Our plans combine Original Medicare with extra benefits in a single convenient plan with $0 or low monthly plan premiums. These plans could even include prescription drug coverage with $0 copays on hundreds of prescriptions. And Medicare Advantage plans ensure that your covered medical costs will never go above a maximum out-of-pocket amount that you know beforehand. Most Humana Medicare Advantage plans include dental coverage with $0 copays for covered preventive dental services, vision coverage that includes vision exams and a yearly allowance towards eyewear, even hearing benefits, including routine hearing exams and coverage towards hearing aids. There are $0 copays for in-network preventive services like annual wellness visits, mammograms, and prostate exams, and $0 copays for routine vaccines and telehealth visits. You get worldwide coverage for emergency and urgent care when you travel, so you can have peace of mind when you're away from home. And of course, you should be able to see the providers you like. That's why Humana works with multiple large plan networks of doctors, hospitals, and pharmacies. So get the most from Medicare with the Humana Medicare Advantage plan. You can have more coverage than with original Medicare with $0 or low monthly plan premiums and a yearly cap on your out-of-pocket costs. It's called Medicare Advantage for a reason. So call a licensed Humana sales agent today to learn more and to request a free decision guide. Remember, annual enrollment for Medicare Advantage plans ends December 7th. Humana, a more human way to healthcare.
You need some help.
I know. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. And if approved, we can have the money in our account as soon as the same business day.
Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need.
This right here is confidence in a bottle. It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face. And what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes. And I did this to my father. We were at home, so we applied it to his under eye bags. And let me tell you, we were so excited. In under 10 minutes, they visibly disappeared from view. And now it is literally part of both of our daily routines. And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles.
This Thanksgiving is the best time to try Plexiderm with our starter price of only $14.95. Your solution is at plexidermtrial.com or call the number on your screen.
On February 17th, 1988, in the small community of Gorman, Maryland, one of its citizens, Kathy Ford, is missing. The car Kathy Ford is last seen driving is found burnt 100 yards from Paul Farrell's trailer. Paul Farrell is being charged with kidnapping, second-degree murder, and third-degree arson. The State versus Farrell trial is underway. The prosecution has provided the jury with two key pieces of evidence. The first are the phone calls Paul Farrell makes to young women, luring them into a remote location or asking them to read a sexual passage from a book. The second is the letter addressed to Kathy Ford's parents. The letter's in Paul Farrell's handwriting, along with the same amount of money Paul took out of his bank account days before. A burnt car is found behind Paul Farrell's trailer in an area he asked not to be searched. The car is set on fire intentionally and can be accessed by Paul without traveling on any main roads. The prosecution concludes that after Paul Farrell kills Kathy Ford, he drives the car away from his trailer and sets it on fire to destroy the evidence.
From what I could tell and what many people told me about Paul, and I think a psychological evaluation even showed this, that Paul has very low mechanical aptitude. They said he was a mechanical klutz. You know, he barely knew how to open a car hood, let alone figure out what to do inside. That's what I was told. A lot of people, they said if Paul had tried to set fire to that Bronco, he would have burned himself up with it because he was just such a klutz.
Paul Farrell admits asking to stop the search where the car is located is a mistake. He says he is trying to stop the discovery of the car. He knows that it would look very incriminating if it is found in his backyard. The prosecution provides the jury with evidence found in Paul Farrell's trailer. The police also find a cigarette butt and a watch. The cigarette butt is from the brand that Kathy Ford smokes. The watch is hers too.
The blood test in this case came back inconclusive, which isn't a huge deal because when they can present evidence that there was blood alongside the other evidence, even if there's no conclusive evidence that that blood belonged to Kathy Ford, it may still be enough to persuade a jury. If you're the defense, however, you definitely want this evidence to be excluded because you want as little evidence as possible. In this case, the judge determined that the blood was admissible evidence.
They didn't have Kathy Ford's blood type, so it was all speculation to begin with, let alone any genetic evidence of her blood or anything.
A neighbor testifies that between 1 and 2 p.m., she hears terrifying screams and a gunshot coming from Paul Farrell's trailer. The next day, she witnesses Paul Farrell taking carpet out of his trailer. She asks why he is replacing the carpet. Paul responds that it's because of a dark stain and animal odor. Both Kathy Bernard and Paul's landlord were inside his trailer prior to February 18th. Neither of them noticed any dark stains or animal odor.
The most crucial of whom was the woman who lived closest to Paul Farrell's trailer. And she testified at trial that she heard some banging, then she heard a scream, and then gunshots coming from Paul's trailer, and later she saw smoke. And finally, her husband said, slapped the table and said, "Damn it, woman, I don't know if you're going to tell the truth, but I am." So then he went into the story of how they terrified her, they kept coming back to her, they kept threatening her, that they would take their children from her. So she broke. So she agreed to sign a statement saying what she testified to. But she immediately tried to take it back. And they told her, "You can't take it back. If you don't say this at trial, we're going to charge you with perjury. And we'll take away your kids."
The prosecution presents body language analysis before and after he completes a polygraph test.
I always tell people I'm trying to help to not take a polygraph exam. One way or the other, they'll use it against you. If you take it and pass, they'll say, "Oh, okay, we still think you're guilty." And there have been a lot of innocent people convicted, in part because they made the mistake of taking a polygraph exam. In most states, polygraph exams are not admissible for good reason because they've never been scientifically proven to be accurate, and most of the evidence points in the other direction.
The analyst states that he reads Paul Farrell 2 scenarios in which Paul meets with Kathy Ford. In the first, their meeting is pleasant and peaceful. In the second, Paul acts aggressive and violent, saying that while he reads the second scenario, Paul is nodding, understanding this to be an admission of guilt.
Paul's shown to be nodding, and that could actually be interpreted a number of ways and not necessarily as an admission of guilt. For example, it could just be Paul indicating that he understands the question that he's being asked.
This FBI agent, what he testified about specifically was Paul Farrell's body language. And this was supposedly, according to the attorneys, the first time in America that body language was allowed as expert testimony.
Most often, in order to obtain a conviction for murder, officers or investigators need to provide a body, a victim. But a jury can still reach a conclusion that a person is guilty of a homicide in the absence of that evidence.
Kathy Ford's body is still not found.
Could be no body because she's alive. That's a extreme long shot. Paul is telling the truth about Kathy calling him in a panic and already being depressed and thinking about she wanted to be someplace else. There is a phenomenon called the fugue state. The fugue state is when a person, particularly at a time of stress, goes into a panic and disappears. And sometimes they come back within a few days, sometimes a few weeks, sometimes never. They set up a new identity and just disappear. Whether she would do that, I don't know, but her letters certainly show she was a very, very unhappy person. She felt trapped by Darwin Moon. According to a lot of people, it was a violent, abusive relationship. She expressed a lot of desire to get out of it, but she was afraid. She felt trapped by her parents' restaurant, which she was expected to work in. She was trapped in this remote, depressing area. And so there were reasons for her to disappear.
In December of 1989, Kathy Ford is allegedly seen alive. A couple from Gorman are passing through Nashville when they think they see Kathy Ford entering a restaurant, dressed as a waitress. The couple say that Kathy met their glance and when doing so immediately ran to the back of the restaurant.
Yeah, is it one of those one-offs where people say that you always have a twin and they found that twin? Or is it where she just never wanted to be found and that's why she's gone missing? Them feeling they wanted to find her and then your mind can play tricks on you saying, you know what, I think that was her. It looked like her. But it was never proven to be her.
Richard and Rosalie Ford are both skeptical that Kathy is alive. They believe that she will contact them if she is.
At Consumer Cellular, we pride ourselves on getting you the exact same nationwide coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost. But don't worry, we've got a lot more than that going for us. Woo!
Like this beautiful store in Arizona, for example. It's the perfect place for me to tell you a little bit more about our phones and how they can become your phones. You name it, we probably got it. We have the top smartphones from all the major companies. If it's state-of-the-art cameras you want with space-age metal housing, we got them. If you want a smartphone with lots of bells and whistles but won't break the bank, we've got that too. We even have flip phones like the Iris Flip. If you're someone that doesn't need all that mumbo-jumbo and just wants something simple. And now, we even have watches.
We do.
No matter what device you choose, you'll be happy to know that if your data needs change,
No problem.
with our Smart Flex feature, you don't have to sweat it. Like say you're on a road trip out west and end up using a bunch of data. We can simply flex you up to the next data tier for as little as $5. Then, when you get home, you can flex right back down with no penalty, so you only pay for what you actually need.
With Consumer Cellular, you get the exact same nationwide coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost.
I know what you're thinking. What if I don't have one of these amazing stores in my town yet? Can I get these phones sent to me?
Yes, you can.
Will our award-winning customer service help me switch over or add a line for $15 to make my own family plan?
Of course they will.
Is it easy?
Easy as pie.
You see that tower out there? It's a beauty. And there are thousands more like it, working hard for me and you, supplying 5G coverage to this beautiful nation of ours. We know how important coverage is. That's why we offer a risk-free guarantee. If you're not satisfied within 30 days of activation, you can pay nothing. Oh, look.
New customers save $50 when you sign up today. Call 800-311-5340. Find us in Target or visit consumercellular.com to switch today.
She knows what she's talking about.